First News with Kevin Miller, joined by U.S. Senator Tom Cotton. Good morning, sir. How are you today?
Hey, Kevin. Great to be on with you.
Glad you're here. We've got a hearing today over Social Security disability and hopefully improving the situation there. What are we hoping to gain from the hearing? What's the outcome?
Well, Social Security disability needs a lot of reforms, Kevin. This is a very important program that provides critical support for some of the most vulnerable Arkansans, people with injuries or illnesses that prevent them from ever going back to work. At the same time, I think most of your listeners will know that there are people who are abusing the disability system, and therefore we need to adopt reforms that are going to protect the most vulnerable, but also make sure that we get people back to work, that we screen out fraudulent applications, and that we're good steward of taxpayer dollars. I have legislation, for instance, that would separate out people based on the severity of an injury or an illness they get, provide permanent assistance to those who truly can never return to work, but provide rehabilitation and job training and other services to help people get off disability and get back to work. To give you an example of just how bad the problem has gotten, in the 1980s, almost 6% of people went back to work on disability. It doesn't sound like a lot, but today it's less than 0.5%. That has cost tens of millions of dollars in taxpayer money, and I think that's got to stop. So at the hearing today, I'm going to be exploring the ways that we can preserve this important program, yet at the same time get as many people as we can off of the disability rolls and back to work.
It really affects Arkansas. Arkansas is one of the top 3 states for Social Security disability. Is there anything specific, really narrowing it down here, that you would like to have changed immediately, or maybe a couple of things?
So my legislation, I think, is very important because the point of all of our social safety net programs should be to give people a hand when they fall down, but also to get them back in the workforce so they can have the dignity and the self-respect of providing for themselves and their families, and so they're contributing to the economy. There's lots of other reforms, too, that we need to adopt in the way that we process disability applications to ensure that there's sound medical evidence when people are applying to it, that we also have recertification periodically so people don't just have one hearing one time and then for the rest of time they're able to say, vouch for their disability on a postcard without having to see a doctor or a hearings officer again, or the length of the appeals and the number of appeals judges we have, which creates a big backlog that just keeps people on the disability program when they probably should have gone back to work earlier. So there's numerous reforms that we need to adopt to make sure that we're taking care of the most vulnerable, but also that we're getting people off of disability and back to work, because that's ultimately the measure of success of any kind of social safety net program, not the number of people you get on it, but the number of people you get off it.
Senator Tom Cotton on with me this morning. There's also the other side of this, that people that have a legit disability have difficulty getting on the program and have to hire an attorney. They already are, cash poor with this. Is that something you're going to look at, too?
Yeah, and Kevin, we just adopted the budget last week. I opposed the budget in part because it passed some changes to the disability program without any real reforms to it. One example is that it just took money out of the old age part of Social Security, what most people think of when they think of Social Security, and just put it into the Disability Trust Fund, because that trust fund was about to go bankrupt next year. Now we've extended the life of it a little bit, but it still ultimately is going to run out of money, which means the people who truly are suffering from life-altering diseases or injuries, like ALS, for instance, are not going to ultimately have the benefits that I think everyone agrees our society should preserve for them. So that's the other side of the disability coin. So we've got to make sure that we're caring for those people who truly cannot work and who truly are disabled and need these benefits to make it from month to month.
The EPA waterways vote is this week also.
Yeah, so many of your listeners, whether they're ranchers or farmers, foresters, homeowners, know about the so-called Waters of the U.S. regulation. The EPA is trying to designate essentially every body of water, down to the smallest pond or even pool in your backyard, as a navigable water of the United States. That's clearly very foolish, but it would be devastating for so many of our industries in Arkansas, because they have to go hat in hand to the federal government to get a permit every time they wanted to build an addition on a home or maybe fill in a pond on a farm with water so cattle can drink during a drought and so forth. I think the EPA has vastly overreached here, and we're trying to stop this from going forward to protect Arkansans' property rights.
Senator Tom Cotton, a pleasure to speak to you this morning. Thank you very much.
Kevin. Great to be on with you as always.